to the debate circle. I'll be your host, Sky Mbura. Today's motion will be, recent reforms in the education sector are already bearing fruit and should be maintained. Our opposers for today will be Matungulu girls and our proposers will be Mukaa boys. For the proposers, which we will start with, is Mukaa boys.
Education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. Yet, when I hear the word education, I usually ask myself, what could it mean? What could it mean to have the word education flowing into your mind? With you is Ryan Mwiti from Mukaa Boys. In this, I am here to propose the motion which states, recent reforms in the education sector are already bearing fruits and should be maintained. Why, you may ask yourself? And for that, let us understand the meaning of education reforms. Education reforms, this is the term for the goal of changing public education in terms of education theory and practice. The changing of public education in terms of theory and practice. One way in which education reform has helped us is in the establishment of CBC, the competence-based curriculum. And in one way, you can say that CBC is flexible. CBC is flexible as it does not consist of any time frame nor fixed schedule. I mean, it can be done in every time, any place, anywhere, as it consists mostly of activities and vigorous things that children do. And it also helps one understand things in their own pace. Take an instance in which students or some children are being allowed to do wood carving. They use the resources available so that they can make things right. Thus helping in the conservation and saving of the environment. And it also leads to improving of the mastery of skills. In skills such as weaving, basketry, or cloth making has helped Kenyans in this world. With CBC right now, it can help us do so many things. It touches on the Kenya's original cultural heritage. Children are being taught, are being instructed on the cultural life right now. So my people here, let us stop thinking and propose and still say that recent educational forms have already borne fruits and should be maintained. Thank you.
First speaker, you have 3 minutes. Opposers.
Recent reforms in the education sector are already bearing fruits and should be maintained. Recent, that happened a short time ago. Education, a process of teaching, training, and learning, especially in schools, colleges, and universities, to improve knowledge and development skills. Educational reforms, the process of constantly renegotiating and restructuring the educational standards to reflect on the ever-evolving contemporary ideals of education. I, Masinjeri, from Matungulu Girls, family stand before you to oppose this motion. What are some of these reforms? The change of curriculum from 844 to CBC. The 844 education program was an 8-year 8 years in the primary, 4 years of secondary, and a minimum of 4 years in the university. The CBC was introduced in 2017 by the late George Magoha, who proposed that the introduction of the CBC will equip the learners with the required skills that will lead to development in the society. But remember, the 844 system had been in place for 32 years. So by just the introduction of another system of education, like the CBC, will cause fracas, will inconvenience the students, same as to the educational system. How is this? First of all, is the implementation challenges. Not all schools are fully furnished with the required equipment so as to sustain the CBC. How is this? There are no adequate classrooms, there are no laboratories, and better still, the laboratories still lack the required equipment so as to fully sustain the students. How do you expect to conduct these reforms without the required resources? It is impossible. It is like going to the shamba without a djembe, which I actually don't see making sense. So I still stand firm and oppose the motion that says recent reforms that have been put in place should be maintained.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes.
Who said that you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Before you is Paul Mutinda, ready to propose the motion that states recent reforms in education sector are already bearing fruits and should be maintained. In the modern days, if we'll take a look on how the schools have been conducted, how classes have been conducted, it's more efficient since most of the students have the advantage. Most of the classes are practically attended. Their studies, they don't really have to write on books each and every time. What do they do instead? They're being assigned to go, okay, not to go. They're being assigned to do a certain thing. As we know, we always call them assignments. For instance, let's say that you have a smaller sibling. Then they return home from school with their assignment. They ask you to assist them. In which way are you going to assist them? The questions that they're going to be opposing to you, how are you going to be answering them? Yes, we have the knowledge, but how will you explain it to him or her? To be frank with you, the new education system can help the students to expose their talents. They'll find them, and the teachers are there to mentor them. They're there to help them nurture their talents, to make them much better than the way they were. For instance, let's say that I don't have any talent for now, but when I go back to the CBC, their teachers may assist me. I'll expose my talent. I'll find new ways on how to improve the environment. But according to the 844 system, why? We have to write on books, yet some of us don't yet know our talents. Just think about it. A couple of years from now, it's going to be a new developed world, and it's going to be embraced by the new system, the CBC. Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes.
As my partner has just mentioned, the competency-based curriculum is one of the most recent reforms in education in our country. Aside from that, we have been enlightened on some other reforms. But to every good story, there is a dark side. Or as the yin-yang sign of Japan confirms, there is good in bad, and there is the bad in the good. Sifa Kimanzi, Matungulu girls, here to firmly oppose the motion that states recent reforms in the sector of education are bearing fruit and should be maintained. Firstly, we have financial problems in our country. A large number of parents are struggling to make ends meet. Some of them are struggling to put food on the table. They're struggling to cater for school fees, struggling to pay their house dues, mostly in rural settings and those who earn low income. A new curriculum based on practical skills requires many materials. If I may ask, do you think these parents will be able to afford that? If they're still struggling with everything else, how sure are we they will be able to cater for the materials? Secondly, there's an insufficiency of resources. There's a shortage of teachers, Books haven't been delivered to schools yet. Buildings haven't been finished. How do you expect to pass a new curriculum when we are not ready to cater for the students? Thirdly, there is favor towards certain levels of education, whereby you find that senior students are being favored by the government rather than the lower students. You find that high schools are being developed faster and more frequently than primary schools. Therefore, you find that when we want to introduce the 363 curriculum, you can't cater for the lower students because you don't have the resources. Thirdly, we have the retention and dropout rates. In relation to the financial problems, you find that most parents who cannot pay their school fees, they'd rather make their children get out of school and find jobs, practical jobs out there. You find a child doing a technical job, find them in bicycle repair shops, find them in buildings just to earn a little more to put food on the table at home. We have overloading of students, whereby you find that a kid in primary school, for example, in the new CBC curriculum, is expected to learn many more subjects than I am as a high school student right now. How do you expect this child to cope with that? They're younger than me, and they are supposed to learn many subjects, including practical subjects. This might result in overloading the students, and most students might opt in not doing that. We also have psychological challenge, whereby you find that a child who's in the 8th grade, when they finish lower primary, when they finish primary school, they're expected to go to high school, whereby they're meeting new people, a new environment, new subjects, and they're supposed to adapt to that as quickly as possible. This might cause increase in psychological problems, as is proven by our generation currently, whereby you find that most of us are suffering depression and anxiety. I rest my case. Thank you.
Third proposer, you have 3 minutes.
It is foolish to try something twice, try it again, and then again, expecting different results. This is Emmanuel Nzangi from Mukaa Boys, abiding by the motion. Recent reforms in the education sector are already bearing fruit and should be maintained. Let us look at 844 schools. They focus more on tests than the teaching outcomes. How? When a student is revising, what are they revising for? Is it a subject that they want to do better in? Yes, but what they are mainly focusing is that they want a good future. It could be their career. But if we think about it, the career might not relate to the subject, such as a farmer studying physics. Is it that we want to impress the teachers? No, that's definitely not it. I'll tell you what students are focusing on when they're revising is the exams, whether they're going to pass or fail, whether they're going to have problems with their teachers, problems with their parents about, oh, you got a D+, D-, and such. That's what students are worrying about. But what they should be worrying about is whether they are going to pass or fail in life, which is the main reason we are in school. We have come to get education so we can secure a good future where we are able to cater for our children, just become a better world. And as my adversary has said, that we might not be able to enact this CBC because we have inadequate classrooms, the facilities are not equipped with the necessary materials needed. Well, first, I love to say, Rome wasn't built in a day. We pay taxes for this. Sure, the rate of which the buildings, the facilities are being built, they are quite slow. But we pay our taxes. This money is what goes to Yes, it goes to the government, their salary, but it also goes to building infrastructure, which is what we need for curriculum-based CBC. Thank you.
You have 3 minutes.
Amy Murugi Karemi from Matungulu Girls High School, standing here to oppose the motion of today. You first gave an analogy of my younger sibling coming home with an assignment asking me to help them. Let me ask you, what is consisting in this assignment? Why are students being subjected to these heavy subjects at a young age? It is exactly why I emphasize that the CBC students are being subjected to heavy workload at a young age. 14 subjects. 14 subjects is even more than any high school student takes. And yet you're giving this to a grade 2 student, a grade 3 student. You say it is foolish to do the same thing once over and over again and expecting different results. But let me ask you, is your solution bringing a worse curriculum? Implementation challenges. This is why the system is not being implemented as it's supposed to be. It is because the classrooms are incomplete, laboratories are lacking, and learning materials have yet to be delivered in schools. So how do you expect to conduct these reforms without the necessary resources? This is according to theconservation.com. The curriculum is expensive. It has been labeled very expensive, especially for parents in rural areas and those with low income. This is because parents are called upon to buy practical materials for classwork. Why are parents buying these practical materials? Let me tell you, it is because the government cannot provide them themselves. This very government, if it was to address the issues on the challenges facing the CBC, in the past 7 years, why hasn't it addressed it? This would appear as an advantage to some students at the expense of others. Why should others be subjected to this right of education and others not? Yet education is a basic right. It is unfair. The university entrance being changed from C+ to B- for males and retaining at a C+ for females. Why is it being gender-based towards the female gender? And how many male students will miss the opportunity to join universities due to this change in grade system? See, this is what I mean by being unfair. Favoritism towards certain levels of education. Senior students are favored over others because funds are sent to develop high schools than lower levels, which contradicts the quote once stated by a World Bank economist. Learning remains one of the most crucial assets for any country to promote equitable growth and poverty reduction. And that cannot happen without a solid foundation. In this case, the solid foundation is the primary school education. So if you do not put your emphasis on improving the primary school education and improving the high school education, how do you expect a better way of learning? Physiological challenges. After the 8th grade, primary students have to readjust to new people, new schools, on how to tolerate them. And this brings anxiety and stress as you are used to the old system. And bringing these new things to you is just overwhelming. So, I come to you today asking you to join me in opposing this motion. Thank you.
So I'm going to give 1 minute to each team for closing remarks.
Back before you is Paul Mutinda from Mukaa Boys. As our opposers have said, that the grading system has been raised, but why have they raised them? Have you sat down to ask yourself that question? That's the same question that's not the question that you are supposed to be asking yourself. It is, but it's not. In a way that it's raised, they put it high for a better tomorrow. We need good doctors, people who are going to be curing us. The spread of diseases is becoming so high. They put it up, let's say, to a B- from a C-. They raised it because they need better doctors, better surgeons for tomorrow. Imagine a person who attained a grade of, suppose, a C-, pursuing C-, pursuing surgery. How will that operation go? Thank you.
Opposers?
Basically, all we're trying to communicate here is that we can't change the world by just changing into a new system that we're not even sure of. We can change the world by learning, by education, which empowers all of us. And we can only do that by doing something that we all know we can do best. As Malala Yousafzai once said, one child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. That is you and I. We are going to change the world because we're still standing and we use the old system and we're going to be great people. And if I may pose a question to the proposers, if you think about it, how much income do skill-based jobs earn? How much more do white-collar jobs earn? We're trying to do white-collar jobs. We're trying to specialize in that, meaning we have an open career field, meaning we have better chances at succeeding in life. In this day and age, people are struggling to make ends meet. Who do you think will stand at a wood shop to pick out furniture? Who do you think will stand to pick out pottery? I rest my case. Thank you.
All right, let's appreciate the two teams with the clap once again. Thank you for that. I just want to appreciate you for starting off the day. The motion was recent reforms in the education sector. Just looking at that first part, we expected you to elaborate for us what exactly has happened in this education sector. I want to appreciate that Ryan at least brought in the elements of, this was the CBC and what we are seeing, all right? So that's a bit commendable. Then the other part is that they're already bearing fruit and should be maintained. So we expected now to tell us as proposers, what are these fruits that we are seeing, okay? We were expecting you to let us know why we should continue on maintaining them. And so when I look at what Ryan did, I think you only defined education reforms. We didn't hear any other term defined, so we would have expected that more. You can learn a lot from Mercy. Mercy decided to pick several terms there and define that very fast. So it was a good start for you, Ryan. However, I feel you didn't have much to say because you underutilized time. And so for that, you're penalized. Paul as well, good speaker, but a bit of a monotonous delivery. You can learn how, because we check on the style and presentation, all right? And I'm sure you all have seen what Amy did when she came here, the last speaker there. You could tell someone who is not afraid of giving out their submissions. So there's a bit of with practice that comes out very well. Same thing to Emmanuel as well, just check on that monotonous delivery, okay? And I must say though, for you, Emmanuel, I was wondering why you fully organized, because sometimes your points would wait and then we're wondering, what are you about to say? We would had silent moments, so I was wondering what's happening, okay? So over time with practice that comes out well. So I want to encourage you, being your first times on stage and the likes, and we have a long way to go, including all the way going to the seniors debates. We expect that you can practice more and more, all right, to get to those levels. For the girls, I want to appreciate that you are great speakers as well. Good points, Mercy, better start. However, I felt you could have brought in as many arguments as possible to the table, like what Amy did. Sif as well, good start as well. And you brought in now some of the points that we were hoping to see, why these reforms are not working. Can parents afford? Do they have good resources, enough resources? All those kind of points were very good as well. However, don't use the word fastly. I think once you say first, that's good enough. Amy, I think I have one word for you. Well done, because you're a good speaker, good questioning, good citations, good points, and you brought in the element that this is not working. So well done, and that's the element of a debater that we expect. So congratulations, and let's wait for the results.
Thank you. When I saw this motion, I expected a broader perspective of the same. Education reforms are not only about CBC. Well, you discussed CBC quite well, but I also expected to hear about the recent reforms about the university fees, start funding, localization, delocalization of teachers. Education is a very broad thing. You gave it, both teams gave it a one-sided kind of approach, but you still tried. I may not go to everything that my colleague has said, but when it comes to definition of terms, define everything that is important. That was about Ryan, Mass Injury, you talked about, you defined everything well, and you gave us a clear background of all what it was about. But again, as you built your team, give clear illustrations. Paul, cross-examination was halfway done, but you looked really composed, and that was quite okay. Good use of rhetorical questions, but I wish you add some life, some stamina, so that we can really feel you. We have Sifa, passionate, good at cross-examination, but kind of you almost overused time. Let's check on that. Emmanuel, you looked composed, you looked okay, but somewhere along the way, you lost steam, and we could no longer feel you, but you have good language. Murugi, I love your presentation. Emmy, that was quite okay. You are passionate. When you quote illustrations of conservation.com, kindly date it. Give it a date so that it can be tangible, believable. But again, you have made good use of rhetorical questions. Thank you to the two teams.
And the judges have awarded Mukaa boys. You have 60.5%. A round of applause for them, kindly. And to Matungulu girls, you have been awarded 68.5%. This automatically makes Matungulu girls the winners of this debate. A round of applause for both of them. You've done such a good job. Congratulations to all the participating teams. And that is it for today. Thank you so much. If you're interested in more of these shows, you're welcome to visit our site on YouTube, Debate Circle, Twitter, Thread, Instagram. Have a lovely day.